Game Day Broadcast Network is proud to present Baseball Media Day. Baseball Media Day is brought to you by ION Training Center, the premier training center for Olympic athletes and hockey in Northern Virginia, and by Integrated Sports Medicine and Physical Therapy. Call Robin O'Connor and her team at Integrated Sports Medicine the next time you have to get back in the game.
Mark Wright, Freedom High School, South Riding. We're coming off a opportunity in the state championship last year. We've been there the last 3 out of 5 years. Last year we matched up against Westfield in the semifinals in a pretty close game. Couldn't quite pull it off. So in the last 3 or 5 years we were able to get one state championship in 2022. When the season ended, we sent off 5 guys into college. Then from there, to be honest, our program in the off season kind of punts everyone to their respective showcase and travel teams. We really reconnect back in August. September is when the freshmen start getting in the weight room, and then we'll have 3 green days or fall practice days. But honestly, we don't compete too much with the travel showcase circuit. So for us, it's really in the weight room. We start getting the upperclassmen in there in about October or November, and then really we're probably hitting all cylinders as a team in December, I would say, when everyone's in the weight room, everyone's respective showcase and travel conflicts are done, and we can kind of dominate their time a little bit more, to be honest. So this year, I think that the expectation is for us to be similar to how we've been in the last couple of years when we lost some power arms, but we have very good high school pitchers. And just going around the diamond, from the back end to the front, everybody in our outfield they've been to the state tournament and or won the state tournament and wearing a ring. So we've got Arnesia out there with Burkholder and Augenstorp and Sanchez. So there's not enough room for all of them, to be honest. So one of them is going to be a designated hitter. Then as you push back up in the middle infield, we got Justin Lanouette and Park. They both have their state rings, both played last year. Ryan Pugh's going to be our starting pitcher. Won't be a big surprise. He pitched in the state tournament last year, the first round of it, and won a game for us. So behind the dish, Cal Keller, who's been the proverbial backup behind Drew Skinner last year, so was groomed by him. He's not going to be surprised. He'll be there. So really, where we really have our dogfights are in the corner infield. So our third base and our first base is really where everyone's going to sort of grind it out and sort of earn their keep this year. But I think we're looking pretty good. Practices are a lot of fun, great group of guys. So I'm really looking forward to getting after it with them.
Coach, if you could just talk a little bit about the expectation, maybe look at your district, your schedule, talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So, I think we've scheduled historically a pretty tough competition year in and year out. So our winning percentage, frankly, would probably be a little bit better if we weren't so aggressive with it. But I think it sets us up really good coming out of the gates, playing some good teams. So for us, if I was like looking and circling someone on on our respective schedule, we always match up good against Battlefield to begin with, and this year, that perfect game, the National Scouting Service has them ranked as the best team in the state of Virginia. That's not for our district. That's not for VHSL Class 6. They're the best team, and their lineup certainly. If you look at it, it's a very talented lineup. So I would imagine that team's going to end up winning, 18, 19 games. Hopefully, the 1 or 2 games that they actually do slip, it's against us, and we could steal a couple games from them. But otherwise, that team's poised to do pretty good. So that'll be a pretty fun matchup against them. And then out of conference, we always play a slew of talented teams. This year, even our scrimmages this week with the weather permitting, we're going to face some good arms at PVI, and then Marshall, who's got a boatload of great frontline arms against us. So I don't know exactly who we'll get, but I know we're going to be challenged this week with a bunch of good guys, on the mound, coming after us.
Coach Rich Kelsey with the Loudoun South Baseball Report. You obviously have a very strong program. Tell us a little bit about what you do to help build the culture that is the Eagles.
Sure. Well, I think we specifically carve time each week to talk about a topic that you could say could blend into culture. So For example, this week we talked about trust. What does trust mean to us? The kids get a little uncomfortable because we ask them to talk about trust. We give exemplars of trust as a team. We'll give real-world examples of trust, some really exaggerated examples of trust from like a Navy SEAL team, and how does that equate to like a baseball team? The week prior, we talked about integrity. What does integrity mean to them? We give examples of integrity. We have guest speakers come in and talk about integrity. So each week, you go over the course of, 12, 13 weeks, we're basically proselytizing, teaching to them. We keep it pretty, considering their aptitude to want to hear us just talk. We do keep it at 6 to 8 minutes. The background on that still, I think I said it last year, it stemmed from Ron Massey. Massey would have his Massey moment and come to our field. He was an older gentleman who was, a baseball aficionado in the area. He always blew through his minute. So he tended to talk for our, upwards of 10 or 15 minutes. So we scaled that back, and we've been pretty good with our guest speakers that come in, and as a staff ourselves, we're pretty good clipping it right at about 6 or 8 minutes. But we talk about things. So we don't say, hey, we're talking to you this week about culture, or we don't say we want good culture. We just talk about things that we think will make them, better people, and in that in itself just creates that culture.
So, Coach, you talked a little bit about, obviously, Battlefield and your division. Tell me your thoughts on the new structure of playing back-to-back division foes that has come out this year.
So, that's in. Obviously, we don't have that opportunity because we play people in different counties. So that Loudoun County model, I'm a huge fan of. I mean, it's the only thing that mirrors closely to college, obviously, where just because you go up against somebody's ace, on a Friday, you still got an opportunity in college to get after them on a Saturday or respective Sunday. So for people that aren't aware of the schedule in Loudoun County, if that was set up like it for us, I would love to go and play Battlefield on a Tuesday and a Friday, Patriot a Tuesday and a Friday, Gainesville a Tuesday, like all the schools, Osborne Park, like that would be, I would love that format. I wish we could actually make that happen because everybody's, for lack of a better word, one-trick pony. Could get them that one win that week, but not necessarily, the matchup where they're able to dominate their schedule because maybe they don't have some strong opponents and they could always just ride that one guy. I like it. I love the format. Wish we had it.
Coach, the transfer portal has made the whole college game, it confused everybody. How are you helping your kids find a place to play, those that want to and can?
Yeah, so the transfer portal, after now, I feel like I'm pretty well versed on it because I do coach the showcase and have done it for quite a while now. And I think in general, the transfer portal is a good thing for college players, people who have college stats. And I think the parents who are high school kids don't realize it. They think the transfer portal is going to be there. Well, number one, they don't think they would ever need it. So most kids overcommit for, the emotional rush. And then they think the transfer portal will bail them out. But history has shown now, there's a good body of work over the years, that you can't just transfer because of your reputation as a high school kid or what you did in fall. So I think there's a big misperception that if you're committed to a Power 5 school, you could go to a mid-major. The problem with that is you're not going to go to the mid-major because the mid-major school is going to take another higher-end mid-major guy that comes down. So, it's all tiered. The Power 5s, then you have the mid-majors who are big schools, like Coastal Carolina is a big program. Then you have George Mason. Then you go to smaller schools like Marist. And then, so it all tiers down. I would even say a Lynchburg, CNU, Randolph-Macon, just because you were committed as a D1 guy, if you think you're going to go just bleed on down to a D3, I know all those coaches, and I'm sure they would consider it, but there's something to be said about the guys that want to be there and wanted to be a Lynchburg Hornet to begin with, that wanted to be a CNU captain to begin with. So I think it really, for me, I think the best advice I would navigate is I think overcommitting is way more dangerous now than it used to be because it's a lot easier in college to transfer from one school to the other. But also the other cynical part of me is everyone's used to transferring. In high school, there's 20 kids that transfer this year. I'm in Northern Virginia, and if it's not 20, I guarantee it's about 9 or 10, and they're top-end people. So people just become, I think, accustomed to more or less trading up or just trying to, navigate, laterally. So the whole transfer portal, jump travel teams, jump high schools, it's been a mess for years. But the short answer to your question is the transfer portal is not going to show too much love to newly arrived freshmen, in my opinion.
Coach, we just talk a little bit about the state of the game in Northern Virginia, and if you had the ability to change some things, stuff that you would like to see, maybe the VHSL and other, powers to be.
I mean, I think history has shown now. I mean, it used to, years ago, seems like nothing to take away from my boy Ittner, who just won and whatnot, and the beach teams were dominant years ago, but Northern Virginia as a whole, collectively, I have to believe all of our buddies that coach down south and whatnot would agree it's pretty strong up in this area, up and down the lineup. We probably take it for granted, that like as us as like a 6A school, we could go play a smaller school like Light Ridge, and we're going to face a big 90-mile-an-hour arm, which just speaks that's our opening day. And we're not driving an hour to do that, but it's because it's really hard to drive more than 2 or 3 miles past a competitive high school without passing a competitive high school. I mean, they're all around. I think the state of play in Northern Virginia for baseball is exceptionally talented, and which I think is good for all of us because we're able to battle test each other. And then when we got to get on the road to go on that bus ride to some far-flung place in the region or even the state, there's a lot of great teams out of here, but I don't think anyone, and there's no one I've talked to that's gone on a bus ride that's been absolutely shocked once they've arrived somewhere, because they get well battle tested, up in this respective area. As far as things that I, would change, I know they already did change the headset, which I think is good. That's going to speed up the game, just from talking to Andy Hayes, himself at Stonebridge. I know he's used it as his travel team, and he's selling me more on it, for that sense too. Andy's got me convinced you could speed up the pace of play, which helps the game as a whole. I mean, obviously you'd have to be asleep at the switch. No, they're not trying to do that. At the higher level, people's got their own feelings about the pitch clock. But at the end of the day, from a spectator standpoint, the people who are just marginal baseball people, the pace of play of the game is a big deal. Maybe not for us who would love to just be out there for 3.5, 4 hours and not have to go to our respective day jobs. But otherwise, I'd be a big fan of anything that'll deal with helping speed up the pace of play. That I'd be fine with that. I'm not going to be too old school and fight any of that.
Coach, final question for you. So much success, man, you've had over the last several years, built a powerhouse, and I know it didn't start that way. So, looking back, what have you learned as a head coach that if you could go back to the first year head coach Mark Wright, what would you tell him based on all this progression you've had?
Yeah, so I don't know if it was all part. If I had to go back and talk to myself, I think, number one, I probably overcoached a lot when I was younger. I thought I could fix everything, and I would talk to players well more than they probably needed it. So I think there's a fine line between having players feel out stuff and sort of guiding and directing them. That could be in a practice environment, but also on game day, in between at-bats, in the dugout, trying to micromanage in between inning and meeting in front of the dugout and thinking that's going to have a direct impact. There's a time and place for that, but I think I'm probably, for lack of a better word, a little bit more hands-off than I would have been, so I think that's benefited. And then I think what's also benefited is just delegating more, to our staff. I mean, I'm a taskmaster, whereas I think I tried to take it on the chin and carry things a lot, 15 years ago myself, and I thought that was, the fact that I could roll up my sleeves and do a little bit of everything, and now I just trust our staff that they're going to do their thing, and when we spread out for defensive specialties, we come back together, and I'll just live vicariously through them. How did double play feeds go? How did the transfers look catching? Hey, behind the dugout, I couldn't see you were doing 2 striker, but who looked good? I just don't see everything now like I used to. I used to have to see everything. Practice would be longer. Now, truth be told, we practice probably the time we're on the field is probably less because I don't really feel like I have to see everything with my eyes as much. So blessed with the good coaching staff that allows me to do that too. But that's probably doing a little less has made it actually we've done a little better.
Coach, I wish you the best this year. Thanks for coming, and can't wait to see what the Eagles do here in 2024.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys.
The Game Day Broadcast Network is proud to present Baseball Media Day. Baseball Media Day is brought to you by ION Training Center, the premier training center for Olympic athletes and hockey in Northern Virginia, and by Integrated Sports Medicine and Physical Therapy. Call Robin O'Connor and her team at Integrated Sports Medicine the next time you have to get back in the game.